Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and you are our distinguished guest. Come on in.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
On this week's episode, first of all, how are you feeling this week?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
I can't complain technically, but I'm going to.
You're going to?
Yeah.
That's fine. That's what I'm here for.
Folks, if you have to ever get your tooth extracted, one thing you want to do is you want to wait a long time before you eat any solid food. Otherwise, you're going to get this paranoid suspicion that the small little food particles get trapped inside your tooth cavity and it heals over the particles of food. And then now you have just food permanently stuck inside your tooth that's healed up and sealed off. And it feels like there's a constant air bubble in there and it's itchy and you don't like it. So just be careful, if you ever get a tooth extracted, then In Shaa Allah you don't. But if you ever get a tooth extracted, then all you got to do is just not get anything stuck up there.
Okay. The good news is, for everybody who's fasting, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone, that will help you. Just the image of that it will help the process of continuing to fast. And on that lovely note, let's get started with this week's podcast episode.
Let's get started.
In Shaa Allah. So this week it's entitled, How Do You Just Know? So does that title make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is coming from the Muslim Marriage subreddit. A young woman asks, Assalamu alaikum. I, 25-year-old female, sat down recently with the first guy ever. I have gotten marriage proposals before but declined because they didn't align with my Islamic ways and life in general. Before sitting down with him, I prayed istikhara twice. When I sat down with him, I first sat with his mom, and she was so kind, and she entered my heart. But for him, I just feel conflicted. A part of me knows he is a good man with good iman, but a part of me is scared he will use me for my passport. Obviously, I will make things more clear to him if I end up sitting with him again. But my issue to begin with is the questioning in my mind, is he the right person? Should I sit with more people and not choose the first person? What if I say no and he was the right person? How do I know my istikhara has been accepted? People have told me before, when you sit with the person, you just know, but I don't understand it. I feel both lost and excited. So what are your thoughts for this sister?
If you pray istikhara, you can't have any doubts about it, right? Because if you have any doubts about any dua that you make, then what's the point of making the dua?
That's true, because
you make the dua with the full acceptance that Allah will grant it.
Yeah.
It's like you pray the dua as if it's a given that it's going to be granted, and then from then on, it's in Allah's will.
Yeah, and also I think there's a general misconception with respect to what the istikhara is. Before we say anything else, again, it's always important to understand that AJ and I are just regular practicing Muslims. Neither of us are students of knowledge or claim to have any understanding of Islam above basic knowledge, right? But based on my understanding of what Salatul Istikhara is, it's a dua, it's a prayer that you're making to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you ask Allah, if this is something that's good for me, please make it easy for me. And I'm paraphrasing, make it easy for me. And if it's something that's not good for me, make it difficult for me to achieve. And then once you make
guide me away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you've made the dua, you go forward with whatever decision you think is best. And then you just sort of pay attention. If the process is suddenly very easy, or is just easy, then most likely that's probably what was good for you. Or if you suddenly find it very difficult and all these obstacles come out of nowhere, then it might be your dua being accepted, right? So there isn't any dream that you're supposed to see. There isn't what was the sister here asked? How do I know my istikhara has been accepted? That's how you know, right? That's how you know. Another question she asked, which I think is the basis of today's episode. people have told me before, when you sit with the person, you just know, but I don't understand it. So how do you just know? Have you ever just known?
Yeah, there's two ways of just knowing.
Mm-hmm.
The first is if you know, you know.
Oh, okay.
The second is if you don't know, you know.
If you don't know, you know.
Do you understand what I mean by that now?
I don't know.
If you know something, you know it.
Uh-huh.
You know it.
Uh-huh.
If you know, you know.
Okay. So
If you don't know something,
yeah.
you don't know it.
Is this like...
So if you don't know, you know.
So
but if you know, you know.
All right. So this is like that known knowns and known unknowns, and then unknown unknowns.
Unknown knowns and known unknowns.
Yeah. Do you remember where that's from?
No.
I'm forgetting his name, but somebody in the Bush administration.
I don't know him.
A long time ago. You know, some of our listeners might not have been alive at that time.
Mm.
But in the Bush administration, somebody stood up and said, we have known knowns and then we have known unknowns.
Is that the guy who had that accident on the hunting trip?
No, that wasn't him.
Dick Cheney?
Yeah, accident in quotations. But this is just according to what's out there already. But no, it wasn't him. I believe it was Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld. But it was
Rumsfeld.
Yeah, so everything you mentioned just remind me of that. Known knowns, and you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, right?
They changed the name of UFO.
Okay.
It used to be unknown flying object or unidentified flying object.
Yeah.
Now they have it as a different name.
What's it called?
I don't remember it. I just brought it up.
It's a known unknown?
No.
Okay. So let's start to answer this lady's question, In Shaa Allah. So have you ever just known, like with meeting me or with meeting anyone else? Have you ever just sat down and known that this person is the right person for me?
Not right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be wild.
Oh yeah.
That would be stalker behavior, I think.
Okay.
To just sit down with someone before you even have any conversation with them.
Yeah.
And just be like, this is the person.
Yeah.
This is the one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to have had some talk with them.
Yeah.
Like you and I did. We spoke over the phone before we met in person.
Yeah, which is generally what I recommend. So that's, I think, part of what she's asking, right? Is, first of all, is there a moment that you just know? And second of all, roughly about when can I expect that moment to happen before I decide that it's just not going to happen?
How long were we on the phone before we met in person?
About a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we met in person, I said to you, I think at the end of our day, because I liked what I heard.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I liked our conversation. I said to you, I'm going to do whatever I can to marry you.
Yes, I remember that was very alarming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so to answer her question, I agree that there is a way that you just know. But the question is, what is it that you just know? I think that's where the confusion is, right? Do you just know that this person is a soulmate? Honestly, I don't really subscribe to the idea of there being a soulmate. I think I just subscribe to the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote somebody for you, and a series of events in your life, and this person happens to be in that series of events in your life.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to have a lifetime of different people that you were supposed to meet and you haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And if you're not married yet, your spouse could be among them, right?
Yeah.
It's just another person you haven't met.
Destiny. There are parts of your life that are destined.
Yes, but that's different from soulmate, right? Because the idea of soulmate implies that because you only have one soul, that there's only one possible mate for that soul. So that I don't think that that's a real thing. That's just me. That's my personal opinion, right?
I think it is a real thing.
Oh,
I think there is the concept of soulmate in that there is one person who's a perfect match for you above all other candidates. They don't necessarily have to be a match for match like soulmate. Yeah. Like the romanticized way of this soul was created specifically for you, and you will find that person on earth. Like it's not a destined thing. It's just there's this person who's out there who has that perfect set of qualities that would make the most ideal partner for you.
Oh, what's her name?
Zahra.
Oh, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. Because the way you were going on, I was like, you mean you haven't met her yet? What? Okay.
Well, you know how when someone says a person with a broken leg
Yeah.
might have difficulty walking on his leg.
Okay.
He might need a splint. Just because I'm describing something doesn't mean I'm experiencing it.
This is true, but
No,
given
don't dig yourself a further hole.
I won't, but
Yeah.
my clients know. If anyone has worked with me, they know that we talk a lot about attachment insecurity, and
Yeah.
I am still working through my fearful avoidant attachment insecurity. And part of what that means, and we'll do a whole episode on it one day, is that there's a lot of storytelling. So whenever you say anything remotely related to anything in the realm of relationships, my mind automatically starts doing math.
Yeah.
And with unknown variables that are unknown to you, coming up with an answer, and now that answer is going to be our day.
There was one variable that was known to me.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we told them, but I was playing that game one day, right? Medieval Dynasty.
Yes.
And in that game, the character had a wife and a child.
Yes.
And you saw that and you're like, who's this? And I'm like, oh, this is my wife and this is my child.
Oh, no.
And that struck a nerve. So I had to start the game over.
Yeah.
Right? Create a new game.
Yes.
Where I played as a single man without a wife or a child.
Yes. You seem upset by that.
No, they're just pixels. And I tell you this every day.
It's weird how often she comes up in our life. But to get back to the sister's question, In Shaa Allah. So the question is, what is it that you just know, right? So what it is that you just know is, number one, the individual's intention, right? So when you sit down with somebody and you're gauging what it is that you're experiencing, you're like, what is it that I'm supposed to just know here? Number one, their intention. If their intentions are sincere, they will make it clear. Everything that they're saying and everything that they do will be in alignment in this direction of wanting to get married. So their intention is the first thing you'll just know. The second thing you'll just know is compatibility. You'll have an idea of at least, maybe not so much compatibility even, but connection. You'll have an idea of whether or not the connection really is there or it's not, right? Yeah. If the two of you are able to relate to one another in a way that you're both comfortable during the experience of talking to each other. So those two things are what it is that you just know.
Yeah.
I know that people want an answer that's more and that's bigger than that, but typically that's what I found in my experience of talking to clients over the years, especially after they've found somebody and we have this conversation of what's in your mind, tell me what you're thinking, and when they describe just knowing, this is what they mean by just knowing. They understand this person's intention and sincere, and they feel like there's a good connection there. That's really all it is. When it came to you and me, if there was a moment that I just knew, in quotations, I know this is going to be hard for people to understand. It was from when you first reached out to me from your inbox, when you first said "Assalamu," that very first conversation. Just because of the way that you were talking to me, I could recognize so much of myself in the way that you spoke that I just knew that there was going to be a good connection there.
Yeah.
Right. And in the process of getting to know you, especially over that first month where we spent over the phone, your intentions were super clear, alhamdulillah. And my intentions, inshallah, were clear to you. So good intentions, good connection. I just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay. It was very uplifting for me to understand that when I was using words, you were able to take those sound waves and transcribe them into actual meaning in your mind. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I do that often.
That was very impressive.
Jazaa K'Allah Khayr.
Not many people know how to do that.
So if we go back to another one of our sisters.
I'm talking about listening, by the way.
Oh, you mean listening?
Yeah, not many people know how to actually listen.
The irony.
They just hear.
The irony of everything that just happened. So with the sister, another question that she had, if you remember her situation, is that she wasn't sure whether or not she should be talking to more people, or so she asked, should I sit with more people and not choose the first person? What do you think?
It's up to her,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you know, you know.
So that comes back to her initial question. Well, how do
Yeah.
I know? We explained how she knows.
Yeah.
How to know. So
Well, here's the thing, right? The basic theory is if you know, you know.
yeah.
And right now she seems to be asking questions.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know.
Yeah.
So she could continue looking for people because she has too many questions on the table right now
Yeah.
for her to settle down with this person.
Yeah.
It seems like the biggest question for her is this person just using me for my visa? If you're worried about that, if that's a factor that concerns you, then you should remove that factor and find people that don't need you for your visa.
That's fair advice. It's very fair advice. But usually this goes back to sometimes some of us, we have our own ingrained issues with trust, independent of the people that we meet and come across, right? So that trust issue might, if it wasn't with the respect to the passport, it might show up some other way, right? So if this is somebody who has, like, you just have to look at the context of the situation and be honest with yourself, because using people for citizenship purposes is a real thing. So in that case, I would ask her to speak with her parents, see what they think is with respect to his intentions, etc. And if she feels like that's not as big of an issue or as big of a possibility, then to move forward. The bigger question of, is this person right for me at all? Right? It looks like she's only known him for a short time, and this is the very first person that she's speaking to. Right, it's possible that the first person that you're speaking to can be the right person. It happens all the time. What I would recommend is you have at least 3 meetings in person, and use those 3 meetings to try to gauge whether or not their connection is there and if his intention is coming through. The reason why 3 meetings, because social anxiety is a real thing. People get nervous. And so we give them at least 3 chances, and also ourselves 3 chances. Because were you I know I was nervous. Were you nervous?
Was I nervous?
Yeah.
I sat cross-legged on the bench.
I was very nervous. So that's why I recommend with clients have at least 3 face-to-face meetings to control for that. And overall, if everything else is checking out, there aren't any major red flags that this person may be a manipulator, or this person might be not actually looking for commitment, being insincere, just red flags pointing to something else. If none of those are there and compatibility seems to be moving along, right, and his character so far is so good, and the connection is somewhat there, I at least give it a few weeks in order to be able to gauge whether or not the connection is also there, like in a real way. Yeah. With respect to the sister, another one of the questions I missed here, which is I think important, where she said, "What if I say no and he was the right person?" That's the fear that so many people have in the back of their heads, that keeps them staying in situations that are probably not good matches for them, in one way or another. So how does one come to terms with that thought that they've met somebody, they feel they're not 100% sure if they should move forward with this?
Easy answer.
Okay.
Allahu Alam.
Well, what should they do? Should they walk away or continue?
Allahu Alam. Whatever choice that they make is the choice that was decided for them.
Well, yeah, that's the correct answer. But if I were to add anything to it, I would say that the person who you're going to be with, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote this for you, is already the right person for you. Yeah. So if it turns out that this person was the right person for you, there's nothing you can do to make him walk away. Yeah. Right? You can literally, I don't want to say anything because we're on YouTube. You could just curse at him, his mother, and his whole family. Yeah. And if you're supposed to please don't do that. But if you're supposed to end up together, you'll still end up together. Yeah. And if you're not supposed to be together, when I say supposed to, I mean qadr, like something that's written for you. Yeah. Then there's nothing you can do to make them stay. Yeah. Therefore, move according to what you think, according to what your instincts are telling you, right? That's the most accurate barometer of what's going on in any situation. If you take away nothing else from anything we said today or in any other podcast episode, trust your instincts. Your instincts are always accurate and always on your side.
Yeah.
So if this sister came to me, that's what I would be asking her. I'd be like, what is your gut telling you?
Yeah.
Do what you think is best given the context of the situation. If you feel like you might find better matches, that's perfectly fine. Just say Jazaa K'Allah Khayr for the it was really great to get to know you, but I don't think we're quite compatible. I mean, she's only 25 years old. I'm much older. She's a baby in terms of the marriage market. You have so much time, In Shaa Allah. And then keep looking. You'll find somebody who you don't have as much confusion with. And for the record, I remember I was a little bit younger than her when the first people started approaching me, and I had these exact same questions.
Yeah.
And if I could speak to my younger person, like my younger self, I would tell her, number one, trust your instinct. Number two, when you know, what you'll know is their intention and the level of connection. And that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And if you have concerns about your instinct, ask an elder or an older family member.
Yeah.
They've already been through what you've been through.
Yeah, exactly.
They have the insight.
Your parents.
They'll be able to suss out the person.
100%.
You hire a detective as well. Get them to stalk the person for a week, which you can't. You actually can't do as a Muslim. Yeah, you can't spy on people as a Muslim. So that detective, private investigator field, that's completely out.
Okay,
that's out of the question.
So we have some calls to make.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah.
Let those people go.
Okay, how many people did you hire?
I don't know yet. It's out of control.
It's out of control. Have you hired a private investigator to track the private investigator to track the private investigator?
I think they did.
You just have a chain like, okay, so this guy fabricated evidence at 11:03. Yeah. This guy went for a coffee.
They're all keeping me updated. So they're all keeping me updated, and some of them don't know about me. They're just.
So that's why you have your phone going off constantly.
It's just an internal loop of private detectives. They're just talking to each other, and it's a whole ecosystem.
At the end of that chain, you're just watching them all.
Yeah. It's got way off track. But In Shaa Allah, somewhere in there, hopefully we answered the sister's question and what we said made sense, right?
If you want to get back on track, hire a private investigator.
Okay.
I'll be able to track it down.
All right. There's a conductor joke in there somewhere, but I can't think of it. So what we'll do is we want to tell the people, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, if you made it this far with us, thank you so much. We appreciate you choosing to spend this time with us, In Shaa Allah. If you are a young woman and you are looking for a spouse using the dating apps and you're exhausted by the exhausting process, I offer a webinar where I provide some guidance on how to approach it in such a way that you can recognize the good people and you will be able to recognize some of the wrong people. That webinar is now, the link to it is going to be in the description. It's also in my Instagram page at Zahra Hassan Koche. I think that's it. That's all and if you found anything that we said useful in this podcast episode or another podcast episode, please subscribe to our channel. It really, really does help us out. We celebrate every single one of your subscriptions with the whole family. It really, really helps our channel. And if you are a young person in the phase of your life where you're entering talking stages or you've been married, let us know if you knew. When did you know that this was the right person, or when did you know that this was definitely the wrong person? We'd love to hear from you. I think that's it
for this week only, and only this week. I'll personally be reading every single piece of hate mail. So go ahead, get them in.
Yeah, honestly, yes. If you wrote it, we read it. That's usually what it is.
Go ahead and get it in.
In Shaa Allah. That's everything?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Ramadan Mubarak. And Assalamu Alaikum.
You have been our distinguished guests.
That's what it is. And
now get out.
Well, and also Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
And Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.